right. Jen, welcome to the Model Mindset Podcast.
Hi.
So our objective with everything we do is always to motivate, inspire, and educate. And you are like the perfect person to have on here to talk about your journey. And so where we're going to start here is, can you just walk us through the day where you found out that you were diagnosed with breast cancer and if you were experiencing any symptoms?
Yeah. It's with cancer, it's not so much just like you wake up and discover you have cancer, right? I was driving and I was like, oh, what's that? I have an itch. And then I literally went to scratch an itch and felt a lump. And so you're supposed to call your OB's office. That's always been my knowledge, right? And I did, and I was turned away. And so call my PCP, just so happened to get a new one, got in really quickly. It's just, yeah, sorry. It's like I have so many thoughts about all of that, right? Because it's the channels you have to go through.
Hoops you have to jump through.
Yeah.
Just to say you were turned away, just to hear you were turned away on something like that is mind-blowing to me.
Yeah.
From my understanding, some people may or may not have lost a job from that situation.
Okay, gotcha.
But I was told that my office was not seeing people for lumps and bumps, was the exact term used to me.
Oh my God.
And here I am driving, and I was just like, okay.
Yeah.
So thank goodness I just switched to this new PCP who had a little bit more availability in the office. And so they got me in with her pretty quickly. She checked me out, and then her recommendation was to go to the Bay State Breast Cancer Center, because if it is something that I'm already in, and they can expedite and like get it done really quickly. And I, in the past have not had great experiences with Bay State overall, but I was like, well, that seems smart to me. And so this all took place over the course of, I want to say maybe 3 weeks, which I felt like was a long time.
Yeah,
but then,
it seems like a long time.
Yeah, and then after speaking with a lot of people over the course of this past year, it's actually pretty quick.
Really?
I know people that waited months. And people didn't take them seriously.
Oh my God.
I mean, that's a whole nother subject, but I mean,
Yeah.
So,
were you freaking out at all, like during that time?
Well, that's why I would say 3 weeks feels like a long time. I'd be panicked.
yes and no. So the
because you don't know the extent, right?
and the statistics show that 80% of lumps or bumps in women tend to be, quote unquote nothing.
Yeah.
So the statistics are on our side,
Yeah,
right?
you're right.
Hormone changes, fluctuation, all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
And so, I found the lump, I see the doctor, and and a little bit of time goes by, and I get in for a mammogram ultrasound, and I thought there was just one spot. And during the ultrasound, I could tell it was taking longer, and she was moving into an area like further into my armpit, near your lymph nodes.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, that's weird. And I'm like, oh, there's 2 spots. And so immediately they had the radiologist come in, and she's like, okay, they were all very professional.
Yep.
She's like, I'm gonna have the radiologist come in and just double check this. And I was just like, okay. She made it seem so normal.
Yeah.
And she said, it's not a cyst like we thought it was. So we'd like you to come back now. Keep in mind, this is Tuesday. She goes, we got you an appointment Friday at 11 a.m. to come back for a biopsy of the two areas. Now, not stating anything. And I just knew. I was just, at first I was like, well, I have to work. And then no one said anything. And I was like reading the room. I was like, oh, clearly this is important.
Right.
And so the radiologist leaves, or the doctor leaves, and the woman is giving me like all the information about the biopsy, like what to do, what not to do. And I'm just like frozen, and she's like, if you need to go cry in your car, just know it's okay, you can cry in your car. And I'm like, why is she saying this to me? Like, I'm like, should I be crying in my car?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Like, what did they find?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, all right. And so, and then, so came back Friday, had the biopsy, and then Tuesday my doctor called me. I was scheduled to have a phone call on Wednesday to get the results, but my doctor called me on Tuesday and asked me, I have these results, would you like me to go over them with you? And I was just like, sure.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's cancer. And I was just like, okay.
Yeah.
Wow. What year was this?
This was this year.
This was this year.
So,
Okay.
so this year, like, just to give you an idea, I think, you know, I'm not a doctor, right? So,
Right.
but from, again, all my experiences and understanding, cancer, like, very, you know, caught early cancer
Yep.
tends to be a year.
Okay.
So when you talk to friends and family or like talk to somebody or engage with somebody without them even telling you, most of the time you have to understand that like it's a year.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Treatments tend to be a year.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you found out, right? Like she says it's cancer.
Mm-hmm.
You hang up that phone, right? A million thoughts, I'm sure. What are some primary ones that were sticking out to you? If I may ask.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like heavy, right?
Yeah.
So it was really calm for me. I was just like, okay. And she didn't know a lot of details. She just said, it looks early. It's cancer. And so I knew I was getting the phone call Tuesday. And, you know, I think I gave you, the two of you, a little background about what my life looked like prior, how busy I was.
Yep.
Right.
And so I had actually scheduled an extra day of work. And I was supposed to go into work later that afternoon. And I remember I was just like, and it's not like me to do this. I was like laying in bed, like reading a book or something when I got the call.
Yeah.
And so I'm just laying there and I have a big, you know, slider off my bedroom. And I'm just like looking at the slider and I was like, I should probably call somebody and I should maybe not go to work.
Yeah.
And it was just, it's very surreal
Yeah.
when you're given information that's that heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're just like, oh, this is the moment where it's okay to call out of work. Like,
Right.
it's not
Yeah.
that you're tired. Like, I just
Exactly.
found out I have cancer.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
But
So-
how do you say that, right? You know,
Yeah.
like it's just
Yeah.
strange because
Yeah.
obviously it's still new to you too.
Yeah. It's still like, looking back on that, I was like, whew.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And then so I called my husband, Seamus, and I was just like, you know, I'm not one for dramatics in that way. He answered the phone. I said, you need to come home. I said, I got the call, and he knew.
Yeah. You know. Right.
Yeah.
And how did he take it? I'm sure he probably was shocked.
That man, he is just amazing. He was shocked because leading up to it, he was like, well, it's an 80% chance it's nothing, 80% chance it's nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to him at one point, we were just like, you know, our big, you know, conversations happened in the kitchen. Just standing in the kitchen, I was like, I don't know, Seamus, I have a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I just have a feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you kind of knew, and plus it's your body too. You probably knew more than anybody.
Of course.
So
Right.
it's a
You get a little sense, right?
Yeah. I know. I knew it in my gut. It was something different.
Yeah.
About this, you know, whole situation.
Yeah.
And now, so after talking to Seamus, I'm assuming you talked to your mom and your friends, and how was your support system with that?
Well, to understand the support system is to understand the foundation I had in place in my life. Seamus and I have years together. We were friends for a very, very long time. You know, we can still openly talk about like our past relationships. We live in like a really honest. We have a really honest relationship.
That's good.
And you know, when you say like you're married to your best friend, like I'm truly married to my best friend.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
we had the kind of relationship where I you know, he's my ride or die, right? Like
Sure.
I knew going into it, I was like, he's got this, but he's the kind of person where I need to be mindful of him not taking care of himself because he will hold it together as long as he can and you know do everything.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
he's my comfort person. He, you know, he's a great provider for our family. He's a great dad.
Yeah.
He's a good friend.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, during, you know, for us, you know, we always talk about having like a why, like, you know, when motivation subsides, you know, it kind of, you lean on your why to help you to fight, you know.
Yeah.
With this diagnosis, when you had those tough days, did you lean on like your family to kind of, hey, you know what, I'm gonna keep fighting, keep going? Like, how was that journey when you had to actually go through chemo and everything like that?
It's weird because I think when people think about somebody fighting cancer, they think of you fighting cancer, when in reality, it's you surviving cancer treatment.
Mm. That's a good way of
I
putting
think
it.
it's a very different shift because it's, you know, when you're fighting through the side effects of what you're pumping through your body to kill off cancer, it's pretty intense. I'm like, what was your question?
No, you're good.
Oh, the why, right?
Yeah, the why,
yeah. And, you know, we talked a little bit about my bodybuilding days, right?
Yeah.
It's not about motivation, it's about discipline.
Yeah.
And
Amen.
yeah, right? Because motivation wavers, and I can't take credit for that. That's a Chris Tuttle thing.
Yeah.
Chris Tuttle has a really beautiful little speech about the difference between discipline and motivation.
They are very different.
Yeah.
Totally different, right? And for me, I just did what I was supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
You go to your, you know, your morals, your values, all the things that you hold really important inside of you, and then you make decisions.
Yeah.
But I think everybody probably wants to hear like, oh, I'm a mom and I have a great husband and I fight for them. It's like, your body's gonna do what it's gonna do, right?
Yeah.
My choice to go through treatment was for me and for my community, right? My
Yeah.
community meaning my family, especially my son.
Yeah.
But if cancer was going to kill me, it's going to kill me. And if it's not, it's not.
Yeah.
I'm going to do what I need to do.
Did that take time to find? Like that thought process? Did that take, you know?
I'm just who I am deep inside, really. I'm not afraid of doing the hard stuff.
That was my next question. Yeah.
And so for me, it was like, I like to say sometimes I'm too big for my britches because I'm the kind of person that's like, yeah, let's do this.
Right.
Like, what do I need to do? All the chemo, all this, all that. Like, okay, let's
go.
Let's
go.
do it.
Yeah.
Side effects, whatever. I can handle it.
Right,
and then you're going through it and you're like, oh God.
Yeah.
What did I do?
Yeah.
Because when we were talking before we started recording, you were talking about all the different jobs you had and going from here to here to there, and it's kind of like, all right, well, your personality tells me that you're just, I'm going. And whatever's going on beside me, I'm going. This is a straight line, and I'm going this direction. And so, I had a feeling that maybe when you were diagnosed or like that, you kind of just were like, all right, what do I gotta do? Tell me what I gotta do, and I'm gonna do it, right? And that was the mentality, and you're just moving forward with that. And what happens, happens.
That's how I approach everything in
Yeah,
life. I'm not somebody who takes no for an answer.
Yep.
You know, if someone says no to me, I'm like, okay, what's my new direction? What's the new choice? You know, for me, you know, I was like, okay, what are these possible side effects? And then, okay, what supplements can I take to do it?
Yep.
Or to help with it? You know, at one point I was having some really bad side effects. And so I was like doing some research and I'm like, okay, raw green shakes. This particular supplement for this for that. And like, you know, then calling my team and, you know, doctors don't love me because I get a little, I'm curious, and I think sometimes.
But that's huge. That is.
But sometimes, you know, if you're a professional in something and someone's a little too curious, it starts to make you question yourself. And I think sometimes, especially involving medical issues, people want you to just do what they tell you to do and deal with it.
Yeah.
And I'm not that person.
But it's like, it's your body. And so you just said something that I kind of want to go into. Did they give you any other options, or it's like, hey, this is your options, it's radiation or nothing, and then you took it on yourself to say, okay, what other options are there for me?
Well, let me just start by saying that when you get a cancer diagnosis, even if you love your team and love the plan and love everything, you should always get a second opinion.
Yeah.
And I didn't get a second opinion until almost halfway through because I really loved the direction of my treatment. Not loved it in that way, but I felt very strongly about it. It made sense to me. It was logical. Like everything just was like, okay, that seems right. Like, let's do it. And then halfway through, you know, unfortunately, I have a lot of friends who also have cancer. Not friends I've made through cancer, friends from my life prior that, you know, some who have lost their battles and some who haven't. Yeah. And everybody was like, why didn't you get a second opinion? I'm like, you're right, why didn't I get a second opinion? And in my particular case, my second opinion was exactly the same. Dana-Farber was telling me they would be doing the exact same thing Bay State's doing.
Gotcha. Did that give you reassurance?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did. It did. I mean, you know, you look up in any medical study, Dana-Farber's in the top 10 always.
Yeah.
Right? And not to say Bay State isn't good, but,
Of course,
you
right.
want to hear
Yeah.
it from the
Exactly,
statistics,
right. Yeah.
And
Yep.
now, I feel like I've like bashed Bay State a little bit. But
No,
like
not at all. I don't think
Not
that.
at all.
No.
I
No.
think it's you have to get a second opinion, especially
Right.
with something like that. And, you're going to Dana-Farber, who is well known within the cancer industry, and for them to vouch, hey, this is exactly what we do. It's a reassurance, and it's almost like checking a box, like okay, and they're not fucking loud truck. Are you kidding me?
Every
It's
time.
not like it's conflicting.
And that doesn't always happen. I
Yeah.
have a friend recently who has the same type of cancer as me. I'm triple positive.
What does that mean?
Oh, well, let's do a little
Let's do it.
breast cancer
Educate
education,
us.
right?
Educate us, Jen.
So I have invasive ductal carcinoma, as the chair is
Yeah,
like,
sorry. I am sorry.
It's okay. I have
Chairs.
invasive ductal carcinoma. I'm a stage 2, grade 3 with lymph node involvement. I feel like an expert.
Sound like
Okay.
So stage 2 is the size of my, the size of, your tumor. It has spread to my lymph nodes. And grade 3, people don't know a lot about grades. I think people hear stage.
Yeah.
They know
Typically.
stage 4 is really bad.
Right,
They know
right.
stage 1 is beginning. Grade talks about how fast the cancer is moving.
Okay.
So grade 3 is about as fast as it gets.
Okay.
Jesus.
Which worked in my favor, I feel like, crazy enough, because the way chemotherapy works is chemo goes after fast moving cells, and if your cancer is as fast as it gets, what's it going to go after first?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So when he explained, my oncologist explained that to me, and explained like I'm a grade 3, and then explained to me how chemo works, I was like, oh yeah, like it's gonna kill the shit out of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Like pew pew, like
Yeah.
yeah. So
Okay.
and the thing about it is like people can and the reason why it's triple positive is I'm hormone responsive. My cancer responds to estrogen and progesterone.
Okay.
And the last one is the HER2 protein. And so people could be any variation of those 3 in between on top of being various stages or grades. So just because my situation looks like this, somebody else's does not look the same and could have the same cancer as me.
Right.
There's also the genetic testing. It just, you could do a whole podcast episode about this
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
That's wild. I didn't realize was that sensitive. I didn't
I
know there
know.
was grades on stuff. I had no idea.
Because you typically only think about the stages.
Right.
We always ask, what stage is
Yeah.
it? But
Right.
there's other components to it. It's never the same.
Which is why I lost my hair, because your hair, your lashes, your brows, your taste buds, all sorts of things are fast moving cells.
Right.
Dust
Okay.
turnover, right? And so like my taste buds were affected during treatment, which was probably one of the worst side effects I experienced.
Really.
Now that was from
Yeah.
the radiation?
No, from the chemotherapy.
Chemo?
No shit.
So I was on a very standard treatment. Shortened version is TCHP, 2 chemo medications and 2 HER2 directed medications.
Is that like you had to go to Bay State
have
every
a-
time?
Yeah.
Port.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the way it goes is you like some people choose not to have a port, but it is better. I didn't have a great experience having my port put in, but I'm really grateful I have it.
Yeah.
You put lidocaine on it, they access it every time you go in for your treatment. And so what my treatment plan looked like was the 2 chemo drugs 1 time every 3 weeks with the HER2 directed ones. Oh God, it gets so complicated, right? So I'm just trying to think of like a quick way to do it, right? Chemo is 6 rounds. The HER2 directed ones are a full year.
Wow.
And then once you finish chemo, or at least in my case, then I had a lumpectomy.
Mm-hmm.
After I healed from the lumpectomy, I went into radiation, which I'm finishing up right now. And so I have 30 rounds of radiation, which is every day, Monday through Friday.
Jesus. Every day? Monday
day.
through Friday?
Yes.
Wow.
For how long?
It's pretty. Honestly, it's pretty quick, right? How long is it?
I'm
last?
almost done. So it was 6 weeks.
No, I'm saying like how long are you there for when you're
like
there?
15
It's
minutes.
quick, right? I have someone that I work with who just finished going through it as well,
Yeah,
and she said it's very quick. She's like, I'm in and out of there. She's like,
yeah.
but
And the last week is directed at where my tumor bed was, and so that one I counted today because I was like, that feels really quick, and so I counted and I was like 15 seconds.
Wow.
Wow.
The
Wow.
longest part is parking the car, getting in the building, waiting for your name to be
Right.
called,
Yeah.
and then going in.
You know, I gotta say, your outlook and your positivity has like radiated.
Yeah.
Like as soon as you came
Oh,
into
It's
the
real.
building, you
Yeah,
know,
it is real.
it's real. Like,
Yeah.
it's very reassuring because, you know, I haven't spoke to you for quite some time. You know,
I know.
John just met you today,
I did, yeah.
but you have been so positive. Like it's been awesome talking to you.
Yeah.
It's so funny you
Yeah.
say that because I don't think of myself as a positive person. I feel like I'm a realistic person.
Mm.
Like, I'm not the kind of person that, like, I didn't go into treatment and being like, I'm going to come out cancer free.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I'm like, well, let's see what, like, to me, and it started in a way where, like, if I get my hopes up about something and then it doesn't happen, I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
If it, like, gut wrenching, like, no. But if I expect the worst case scenario, anything above it feels really good.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like this weird, like, backwards, like,
See, you strike me as like an optimism,
but I'm not.
which is crazy.
See,
See-
I see. All right, so we'll get into this now because I'll give you my viewpoint of it. I don't see you as someone who's super optimistic. I see you as someone who's very sure in everything you're doing,
That's
and I think they're very different. So I think
Yeah.
like with what everything you're explaining,
Mm-hmm.
you were curious, you wanted the facts behind it,
Yeah,
and once you made up your mind you were doing it, then you were doing it, and that's the
Yeah.
fact of it, right?
yeah.
Even with the bodybuilding stuff like that, we're talking about with the
Yeah.
jobs for like everything you say you're gonna do, you
go
do,
for it.
and you just
Yeah.
do it
Yeah.
without
Yeah.
much, you know what I mean? Like, you don't, as we like to say, you don't have the argument with yourself. You don't, what's the word I'm looking for here?
Shit or get off the pot.
No,
Commitment?
no, when you're,
Can I buy a vowel?
I know, I'm trying to think
You
of it.
gotta-
Not
we
argue with
gotta
yourself.
Give them a moment.
I know, right? Jesus. But no. So, yes, you don't have the,
I want to.
when you're involved. No. When you're not arguing with yourself, you're not,
Man, give me the letter.
Self-assured?
Give me the letter.
it's not a word, it's something with yourself.
Validating.
No, we'll move past it. What
He's
a fucking
gonna
disaster.
figure it out in, like,
I'm gonna
5
yell it at you in
minutes.
like exactly 15 minutes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh fuck, that's good.
Don't surprise me though.
I know, right?
I'm known for
Jolt
like,
you with it.
"Ugh,"
Yeah.
Right?
get water and I'm like.
Yeah, but that's kind of how I view it. I mean, I just think
No,
I think
no.
you're very sure on everything you're doing.
No, I think that you're confusing my like joy for life with optimism.
No, well, hey, you know what? I love it either way.
Yeah, no, I feel like you have to like you can always find something wrong,
Of course.
right?
Yeah,
Which
of
totally
course.
fits into your model of like your model mindset,
Mhm.
right? My mindset is like, okay, I have to drive 30 minutes to this place. Oh, I can listen to this book on I
Right.
say book on tape, it's not
Yes.
book on tape, it's audiobook.
Yeah.
Or a podcast, or I can like listen to this song or do this, and it's like I find joy in the small things.
Yeah.
It's the expectation where you would think, right, that I'm an optimist and be like, oh man, kick cancer's ass. And like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll say I'll kick cancer's ass, but that doesn't mean, you know, I think that the treatment's gonna work,
Yeah.
Right.
right?
Yeah.
If which it did.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
But
yeah.
I'm sure that mindset plays into your body responding to the treatment as well. Because like if your mindset's not there and that stress is just weighing on you, your body's gonna fight it. You know.
Yeah, like I was saying before, like not being a person that takes no for an answer.
Mm.
I'm not a quitter. Like, I have a forward focus in anything I do. So, you know, I guess you could say that even in the same thing, like going into cancer treatment, it's like, okay, well, if this treatment's not going to work, I'm going to find another treatment.
Right.
If that treatment's not going to work, I'll find something else.
Right.
And we'll figure it out. Like, I'm
Yeah.
a problem solver.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, so maybe that does make me an optimist.
See,
or-
you're
so-
I'm just saying, I think
Go
I
my way.
don't know.
Yeah.
And
So-
what I was looking for was
Yes.
to negotiate with yourself. I
Okay.
found it. You don't
Thank
just negotiate with yourself. You kind of make up your mind and kind of do your thing.
I like that.
But I did want to ask. So piggybacking off of that, not to cut you off, but I have a thought here. I want to roll with it. Right.
You're good.
So, in all of this,
Mhm.
did you notice any significant changes in yourself now, going through all of these things and not negotiating with yourself on a lot of stuff? Did you find that maybe key parts of who you are changed and you kind of found some significant changes in yourself?
Absolutely. Going into it, I think anytime you go into a big life change or something impactful in your life, you have to come out changed.
Yeah.
right? And if you don't, it's such a missed opportunity. And so for me, I was like, all right, I already was drinking filtered water and eating locally sourced organic food and working out and lifting weights and doing really good things for my body. And so to me, I felt like, you know, a lot of people who get cancer tend to change their diet afterwards. So I'm like, okay, that would feel a little bit too extreme, because I felt like I was already being really mindful of those
which is a
things.
good point.
So I just kept saying to my husband, like, what's going to change? What's going to change for me? And he's like, well, nothing has to change. And I was like, something. I have to come out of this changed somehow.
Yeah.
Like, in a positive way. And before cancer, I was working all the time. I wasn't stopping. And when I wasn't working, I didn't even like mention this to you guys before. I was renovating my house.
Ooh.
Me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm talking like
Taking down walls.
changing, maybe not fully taking down a wall,
Yeah.
but like fixing, repairing walls, and like I was renovating my house.
Wow.
There was nothing that I was not gonna do. And so that's my change, right? It is to not work myself into the ground, allow myself downtime, allow myself free time, be okay with a messy house, be okay that that room isn't totally updated.
Right.
That's huge.
That's
a huge perspective, and to have that like awareness to understand, hey, I need to slow down, because clearly my body's telling me that I need to slow down.
But did that have to come in stages though? Did that have to come like a little bit at a time, like a small bite at a time?
Do you know I almost went back to bartending and traveling already.
All right,
I was
so
like, oh, I'm feeling better. Maybe I should sign up for like some of these weddings. And I was like, no, don't do it.
Yeah.
No, I think what did they say? Like, I use the rule of 3 for a lot, right? 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years, 3 minutes. Like, I just that's my default, and maybe it's I have to reject doing something 3 times.
Okay.
It's, you know, and maybe it ends up being 4 times, but it's like a nice baseline for me to work off of with changes. And I think when you're trying to change habits, that's not easy, and like you will falter, and like, you know, so the urge is there, and it's really hard. It's easier to change what you eat than it is to literally change your way of thinking and being.
Yeah, well, especially if you've been doing it for so long too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know,
it's instilled in you. It's a behavior.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like you have to unlearn a behavior almost.
Yeah. Absolutely, that's really tough.
Yeah, that is.
Now, has talking about your journey and going through this experience, have you noticed that it's helped other people, you know, open up and maybe talk about their own experience, or maybe they've opened up like, oh, I'm going to get tested, or have you found that you talking about your journey, you know, whether it be on Facebook or in person, has it helped impact others?
I hope so.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
I mean, this is another outlet that could help people as well.
I'm, you know, I'm not like some influencer, but I feel like I get messages every week from somebody saying I've been blowing off a mammogram for years, or, you know, one of my good friends made a comment to me like how quickly that I, you know, found the lump, made the phone call, got the appointment. One of my friends was like, I had plans all summer, I wouldn't have called. I was like, what do you mean you wouldn't have called? Yeah, and so I think it's helped change people's perspectives.
Yeah.
So I definitely do get a lot of feedback there, and I feel like I try and share a different perspective of what I went through, so that maybe people can either be more understanding of others or better learn how to support other people going through it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's huge.
People are just like, you're a fighter, look at you go. And it's like, yeah, on one hand, you are a fighter as a cancer patient, or, you know, someone going through cancer treatment. But also, too, it's like, it was hard when I was going through the hardest part. The chemo was really the hardest part. When I was going through it, when people would tell me, like, you're a warrior, you're a fighter, I would, like, sit there and be like, I appreciate the sentiment, but I would sit there and be like, how am I a warrior? Like, I feel like death, all I'm doing is just, like, living moment to moment, getting through these side effects.
Yeah.
You don't feel like a warrior. Maybe you do.
Yeah.
Maybe you do at the end.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel that way.
Right.
Yeah.
At least for me, it didn't.
Yeah.
I was like, well, science is doing all the work, and I'm just trying to live through
You're
it.
the vessel kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
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 So let me ask you this. In I want to word this the right way. Do you oftentimes, or at any point, sometimes feel like I don't want my identity to be based around my cancer?
Yes and no. Life comes in seasons, right? And right now, this season in my life, I'm fighting cancer.
Yeah.
And I live in my truth, right? And I feel like it would be not living truthfully if I were not to let cancer be an identifier for me right now.
Right.
Right? So, yeah, I mean, things bother me about this process. And I thought that would bother me.
Mm-hmm.
You want to? No, it doesn't bother me. What bothered me was when I lost my hair and then lost my eyelashes. It felt like I can no longer hide that I'm sick. And I hated that my presence would bring sadness to somebody.
Gotcha.
Because I was sad that I had cancer, but I'm not a sad person.
Right.
And I didn't want my presence to make somebody sad.
Is that what you found? Like just being around people would get sad? Yeah.
For a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then when you like can pull yourself together and put makeup on and hide the fact that your lashes and hair are missing. Like I think I've worn a wig like twice.
Mm-hmm.
But like those, for my treatment, I would only get like small waves of feeling okay. And when I would, that's when I was like present and people would like, out in public a little bit more.
Yeah.
And that's when people, oh my God, you look so great. You're doing great. And I'm like, not really.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you're not like sad.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Wow, man, like I appreciate that perspective so much because I think that gives other people perspective that when you're around people, you don't have to have sadness.
Right.
Like you're looking for joy, right? I mean, just a smile, just conversation, something. It's, you might be going through something right now, but I'm sure the last thing you want is sadness. You want joy,
right?
Because that's what's gonna keep
But
you
it's
going.
hard for people, right? Like
100%.
I don't think you could walk down the street and not meet somebody who has had an experience with cancer, whether it be a friend, a family member, whether they've lost somebody, still have somebody. Cancer touches everybody.
Yeah.
And I think not everybody is equipped with the same communication skills and not everybody is equipped with the same coping skills. And so on the other side of it is when somebody was sad seeing me, how else do they feel like it's appropriate to react?
Yeah.
Right? They're sad that I'm sick.
Yeah.
Right? So the other part of it is that I've given a lot of allowances for people saying things to me that maybe I don't like, or acting a certain way around me, or not coming around me, because it's a very uncomfortable situation.
Yeah. It
can be.
Yeah.
And like I said, not everybody's equipped for it. So in my mind, it's been like, okay, so and so is not comfortable with it, and that makes them sad, and that's all right. And so, it's just acceptance of other people's responses. But yeah, I mean, I think on the flip side, if I wasn't sick, right, and I were to encounter somebody, I would be sad.
Right.
Yeah.
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 What am I supposed to say? Like, you're doing it.
Yeah. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What do you say?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's like, what do you say?
Yeah.
Right. All you can really
I don't have
offer is
the
like
answer.
support. Because I mean, it does. I mean, when people mean a lot to others, there is a sense of sadness that comes along with it because you don't want them to be going through something as when you hear radiation chemo, that's a lot, and it's like you don't want someone to be having to go through such treatment and stuff like that,
Yeah, you don't want anybody to be
Right.
sick.
Right.
Yeah.
And the best advice I've been giving people is like, have like your little box of things that you can offer somebody, right? If you're the kind of person that can't be there, cooking food, sending a DoorDash, like I live somewhere where we don't have that, so people have sent me like a delivery service for food. Maybe it's like sending somebody a card, offer babysitting, like figure out where your support supports lie, right?
That's
Like
great,
what
yeah.
you're capable of doing, and instead of being like, I'm here for anything you need, like no one's gonna call you for
Exactly
anything
right.
they need,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But the most grounded people in my life have said things to me like, can I watch Merrick for you this week? Which is my son.
Yeah.
Can I send you something for dinner? Can I come sit with you one day? Do you need company at treatment? Do you need a ride? Being more specific with your support
Right.
is really, really big, because even if you're the kind of person that would take somebody up on a blanket statement offer, you don't think about that when you need specifics.
Right.
Right?
That's a very good point, by the way. That's a
solid
very
point.
good point. That's a very good point.
That's a really beautiful way to support somebody
Yeah.
too. And let me tell you, I don't know, like maybe it's just me, I love getting cards.
Yeah.
The amount of like cards that were left on my doorstep or I got in the mail, I've saved every single one of them.
That's
And I
amazing.
know it's a nice way of somebody being like, maybe I don't feel comfortable or can physically be there with you, but
Right.
I'm thinking of you. It's
Right.
nice. It really is nice to know
Yeah.
someone's thinking of you.
That's
Yeah.
amazing.
That is.
Yeah.
And I hope that wasn't out of bounds to ask that question. I always feel like when you walked the door today, not a single thought of mine had anything to do with cancer. Like we talking about your family right away, right? We're talking about our families for 15 minutes and everything else, like, and that was good. Like that was like all right. We don't have to have that be the only reason why we're together. You know what I mean? So that was just kind of important for me to at least ask that.
But
I
even
figured
if
you had a
it
good
was
perspective.
like I think just in general in life, you have to be okay with whatever season you're in. When I first had my son, I went out to dinner. The first time I went out to dinner after having my son, my husband and I went out with a couple that doesn't have children and doesn't want children. And all that was on my brain was my son. I didn't know how to talk about anything else because I just had a baby.
Right.
And I felt so guilty, and I wish I could go back in time and tell myself, like, don't feel guilty, that's your life. If they don't like it, they can speak up or change the subject. Right? And right now, a lot of, I'm coming out the other end of my treatment, so it is a little bit less about cancer.
Yeah.
But especially during those chemo months, like,
that was your life.
That was my life because I was fighting cancer. That's a big deal.
I like how you call it a season.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
I don't know who said it. What is it? Like, there's like a little like season, reason, life. Like, you can categorize things.
I mean, the GOAT does talk about that, Tony Robbins.
Am I quoting Tony Robbins?
You might be quoted. Yeah. But also, he does say too that the reason why we communicate is to feel better. Either communicate something good in our life, communicate something bad in our life. It's to feel better. So I totally get that.
The human connection is real.
For sure.
It's so real. And I'm definitely a verbal processor, so I apologize.
No. So Jen, this has been awesome. We appreciate you coming on. Just giving us so much unique perspective. I think it's going to help not only a lot of women, but also men too.
I agree, man.
To understand how we can support our significant others. And please, if anybody has any questions or wants to message you, where can they find you?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. My my profile is public. It's Jenny with an IE, VENNUM. So
Awesome.
Jenny Venom.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Jen. It's been awesome.
Thank you,
And
guys.
wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank
Yeah.
you.
That was awesome.
That's good.